China is becoming increasingly active in the Middle East, and this process has moved to the center of international attention in recent weeks. More and more analysts are saying that Beijing is gradually shifting from purely economic influence toward a much broader geopolitical role in the region. Against the backdrop of growing tensions surrounding Iran, these developments are now being discussed not only in Western capitals, but also across Asia and the global South. Why has China chosen this particular moment to act more confidently? What stands behind the expanding technological and strategic cooperation between Beijing and Tehran? And does this signal the beginning of a new phase of global competition between the world's largest power centers? Dear viewers, you are on the channel InfoVector. With you is Daniel Brooks, and today we will take a detailed look at the developments that are already beginning to reshape the international landscape. For decades, China followed a cautious long-term strategy. Beijing preferred to strengthen its influence through infrastructure, trade, investment, and large-scale economic projects. Chinese companies built ports, railways, energy routes, and logistics hubs while gradually expanding their presence across key regions of the world. However, the situation of recent months has demonstrated that the old model no longer guarantees complete energy security for Beijing. That is why many experts believe China is now entering an entirely new phase of international strategy. A growing number of analytical centers report that cooperation between China and Iran intensified sharply during the spring of 2026. And the discussion is no longer limited to industrial contracts or commercial partnerships. Increasingly, reports focus on technological coordination, surveillance systems, electronic defense capabilities, and advanced air defense infrastructure. According to several international assessments, the scale of interaction between the two countries has expanded dramatically compared to previous years. While earlier cooperation was often described as limited or indirect, analysts now speak about integrated systems and much deeper technological coordination. At the same time, Beijing appears far less hesitant about openly demonstrating its expanding role in the region. For Washington, this increasingly looks like a major geopolitical signal. Many experts believe China is gradually showing that it is prepared to protect strategic interests far beyond East Asia. What makes this moment especially significant is the fact that it comes while the United States remains heavily engaged across multiple global theaters simultaneously. Because of this, analysts increasingly describe China's approach as a classic long-term pressure strategy built around the creation of several interconnected zones of global tension. Particular attention is now focused on air defense coordination systems and electronic control technologies which, according to Western publications, may be gradually integrating into Iran's broader infrastructure. Analysts are especially discussing surveillance technologies, early warning systems, and strategic facility protection. Yet the most important effect may not even be military in nature. For many countries across the global South, these developments are increasingly viewed as evidence that Western dominance is no longer perceived as absolute. China is demonstrating that it can support partners not only economically, but technologically as well. Behind Beijing's confident posture, however, lies a highly pragmatic calculation. China is not interested in direct confrontation with the United States. Instead, its broader objective appears to be making such a confrontation increasingly risky and unpredictable for everyone involved. At the same time, analysts acknowledge that as more advanced systems enter the region, the probability of major international crises also increases. And this is precisely what concerns many Western observers. One of the most closely watched aspects is logistics. According to numerous analytical reports, China is gradually restructuring supply routes through a distributed transportation model. Instead of relying on a single major corridor, Beijing appears to be developing multiple interconnected pathways through Central Asia, maritime routes, and rail infrastructure. Many experts believe this model creates exceptional logistical resilience. Even if one route encounters restrictions or additional scrutiny, the remaining channels continue operating. Special attention is being paid to rail infrastructure connected to the Belt and Road Initiative. Analysts believe transport corridors through Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan are increasingly becoming major components of regional logistics. In addition, maritime transportation has become another major focus of discussion. International observers frequently mention the use of distributed cargo systems, where commercial trade flows are blended together in ways that make comprehensive oversight extremely difficult. Against this backdrop, many analysts conclude that Iran is gradually gaining access to technological capabilities that would have seemed almost unreachable only a few years ago. But the central question remains: which systems are causing the greatest concern inside Western strategic circles? According to several experts, particular attention is focused on advanced radar systems and early detection technologies. Analysts believe such capabilities could significantly strengthen regional airspace monitoring. There is also growing discussion around long-range and medium-range air defense systems designed to create layered protection around strategic infrastructure. Western specialists emphasize that the true significance lies not only in the systems themselves, but in their electronic architecture. Software integration, command coordination, and digital synchronization are increasingly viewed as key strengths of modern Chinese technology. Microelectronics has become another major topic. Analysts repeatedly note that modern navigation components and processing systems could substantially improve the precision and coordination capabilities of various platforms. In addition, international publications continue discussing rapid advances in unmanned systems. China is widely seen as expanding its capabilities in heavy unmanned aerial platforms, coordination systems, and satellite-linked control infrastructure. Particularly important are emerging swarm coordination technologies. Many analysts describe this area as one of the defining strategic trends of the coming decade. Electronic control systems are also considered a crucial factor. Modern platforms can identify signal sources, disrupt navigation, and complicate communication environments. In today's high-technology environment, information control increasingly determines strategic advantage. And for this reason, experts believe China is focusing less on quantity and more on integrated system intelligence. But why is Beijing accelerating cooperation with Iran specifically now? The first major reason discussed by analysts involves the global distribution of American resources. The more attention Washington directs toward the Middle East, the fewer resources remain available for strengthening positions in the Asia-Pacific region. For China, this creates additional strategic flexibility around Taiwan and the South China Sea. That is why many experts view Beijing's current policy as part of a much broader long-term geopolitical strategy. The second reason involves energy security. Iran remains one of the region's major energy producers, and for the Chinese economy, stable access to energy routes remains critically important. In many ways, Beijing is now protecting not only a partner but its own long-term strategic interests. The third factor is technological competition. For China, the current situation provides an opportunity to evaluate the effectiveness of advanced systems under conditions of real international tension. Many analysts believe the Middle East is gradually becoming a testing ground for technological competition between global powers. Finally, there is growing discussion about the weakening effectiveness of Western sanctions mechanisms. China is increasingly demonstrating an ability to build alternative financial and logistical systems even under significant international pressure. At the same time, the risks are also growing. Expanding cooperation with Iran complicates China's broader relationships with several Gulf states and other regional economic partners. In addition, any serious escalation involving Iran automatically increases the possibility of a wider global crisis involving the world's major powers. This is why Washington and Jerusalem are responding with increasing caution. According to analysts, Western governments are now facing a situation where any major move could trigger highly unpredictable consequences. There is especially intense discussion surrounding changes in aerial strategy and electronic security planning. Many experts believe the appearance of new surveillance and electronic control systems is already influencing strategic calculations throughout the region. Israeli analysts are also paying close attention to the evolving technological environment. International observers report growing emphasis on cyber capabilities, distributed drone coordination, and systems designed to overwhelm advanced detection networks. In effect, the world is witnessing the emergence of a new international structure. What recently appeared to be a localized regional crisis is increasingly becoming part of a broader global competition between the world's largest centers of power. At the same time, another reality is becoming increasingly clear. Modern technologies are steadily transforming the balance of global influence. Detection systems, electronic control, unmanned platforms, and digital coordination are gradually becoming more important than traditional military superiority. The world is entering a new era in which strategic advantage will depend not only on possessing advanced systems, but on the ability to produce, modernize, and integrate them rapidly into unified networks. What happens next? Most analysts believe the probability of a direct global confrontation remains relatively limited because the cost of such a scenario would be extraordinarily high for all participants. However, the likelihood of prolonged technological, economic, and cyber competition continues to rise. Meanwhile, the Middle East is steadily transforming into one of the main arenas of global competition in the 21st century. Do you agree that the world is gradually moving toward a new era of global blocs? And how significant do you believe China's influence in the Middle East could become in the coming years? This was Daniel Brooks. See you in the next Analytical Reviews.